you know, something pretty incredible has happened, and it's a first in all of human history. Right now, more than half of us, more than half the entire world's population, lives in a city. I mean, that's a massive, massive shift in how we live. It's this great human migration that is totally reshaping our planet. So, what's behind it? And what does it all mean for our future? Well, let's dive in and find out.
So, the big question is, why? Why are our cities growing so unbelievably fast? Well, to really get our heads around this, we first have to, get the lingo down. We need to learn the language of this whole urban shift.
Okay, so our first section, the Great Urban Shift. We're going to be learning the language of cities. First things first, let's get some of these key terms sorted so we're all on the same page.
All right, first up, the big one, urbanization. Now, you might think this just means cities getting bigger, but it's a little more specific than that. It's really about the percentage of people living in towns and cities. So it's the increasing share of a country's population that's moving out of the countryside and into urban areas. It's a process, a real shift.
And that brings us to the two key players in this whole story, right? You've got rural, which is basically the countryside, and then you have urban, which just means towns and cities. Simple as that. And this whole process of urbanization, it's all about the movement of people from the rural to the urban.
Okay, but then some cities get, they get huge. So big, in fact, they get their own special title, a megacity. And we're talking about any urban area with a population over a whopping 10 million people. Yeah, 10 million. Think about places like Tokyo or Delhi. These are the true giants of our urban world.
All right, so now that we've got the vocabulary down, we can really get into the juicy part, the why. Why are so many people making this move? Well, it all comes down to a really interesting dynamic of things pushing them away from home and other things pulling them toward the city.
So let's start with push factors. A push factor is exactly what it sounds like. It's something negative, something bad about where you live that makes you want to leave. It's the stuff that kind of pushes you out the door, making you feel like you just have to move. And you guessed it, on the flip side, we have pull factors. These are all the good things, the positive stuff. They're the attractions and opportunities in another place that call out to you, that pull you in. It's the promise of a better life, really.
And when you put these two together, it creates this incredibly powerful force. You see, people are being pushed away from the countryside, maybe because there are no jobs or not enough services. But at the same time, they feel this almost magnetic pull from the city, which seems to offer a fresh start and so many more opportunities.
So let's break it down. On the push side, you've got things like poverty, a real lack of jobs, even natural disasters. At the exact same time, you've got these powerful pull factors, the chance for better paying jobs, access to things we might take for granted like hospitals and schools, and just that feeling, that hope for a better way of life. It's that combination that's so crucial.
Okay, so people pack their bags, full of hope, drawn in by all those amazing pull factors. But what do they actually find when they get there? What's the reality on the ground? Well, as you'll see, it's often a real mix of incredible opportunities and some pretty serious challenges.
Let's start with the good stuff, the hope. A lot of the time, those pull factors are very real. People find better healthcare, way more job options with better pay, and more housing. This is the dream, right? This is what pulls millions of people in. It's that chance to build a better life for themselves and their families.
But, and this is a big but, the reality can be really tough. The problem is, when cities grow this fast, the services and infrastructure just can't keep up. And this can lead to some huge challenges, like poor sanitation, not enough clean water, crime, and sometimes even unemployment, the very thing people were trying to escape. That bright promise of the city can quickly run into some pretty harsh realities.
So this explosive growth doesn't just affect the people living in the city. It has a huge, and I mean huge, impact on the environment. So for this next part, let's take a look at the environmental footprint these massive cities leave behind.
Think about it. When you pack millions of people and all their homes and all their industries into one compact area, you're going to put an immense amount of pressure on the natural environment. It's just inevitable. And that creates a whole laundry list of environmental problems that these cities have to deal with.
And to see what this looks like in the real world, just take a look at a megacity like Mumbai. Its incredible growth has led to some serious problems with air and water pollution. Why? Because the city's systems just struggle to keep up with the demands of so many people. It's a really clear, powerful example of the environmental cost of rapid urbanization.
And it's not just the air we breathe. Another huge challenge is what happens to rivers.
In and around big cities, rivers can become heavily polluted from all sorts of waste, from factories and just from so many people living nearby. Plus, all the construction can change the river's natural path. This creates massive problems, not just for the people in the city, but for the entire ecosystem that relies on that water.
Okay, so we've covered a lot. We've looked at what urbanization is, why it's happening, and the really complicated effects it has on both people and the planet. And all of this leads us to the biggest question of all. What's next for our urban world?
And this really is the ultimate challenge we face. This great migration to cities, it's not slowing down. So the real question for all of us is, how do we build cities that are better? How can we design and manage them so they deliver on that promise of opportunity, but without all the hardship? And how do we do it while protecting our planet? Seriously, how do we build the cities of the future to be sustainable, healthy, and fair for everyone? That's the big question for us to think about.